Hi everyone. We will start in 2 minutes. Good morning everyone and welcome to today's webinar, How to Improve Customer Lifetime Value Using SAP Billing by Accurate Solutions, our SAP partner. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. If you have any question during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We will bring them up during the presentation and we will also have time for question at the end. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to you following the presentation for your own purpose or to share with others. Now, let me first introduce today's presenters. Ashish Saxena, he is Vice President SAP Solutions at Accrete, and Jed Durso, Senior SAP Billing Solution Architect. So let's start with the very quick short poll. These poll question will be live for 10 seconds. We have 4 poll questions. And after that, I will hand over to Ashish to start the presentation. So here is the first poll question. Now let's go over second poll question that we have today. Here we have third one. And this is the last one. Thanks for your responses. Now I will hand over to Ashish to start today's presentation.
Hi, good morning.
Ashish.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and probably good evening as well for people who are from outside US. I would like to start with a quick intro about myself, probably a one-liner. So I'm Vice President of Accredited Solutions, and I've been working in SAP for the last 20 plus years. I worked in SAP Hybris Commerce, Hybris Billing, Sales, Hybris Service, Hybris Sales, SAP CRM, ECC, and even S4HANA. So today we're going to talk about how to improve customer lifetime value using Hybris Billing, which is now called SAP Billing or SAP BRIM. SAP keeps on changing the name, but they're pretty much the same product. So what the agenda for today is going to be like, what is customer lifetime value and how can it be improved, and how does Hybris Billing going to help it improve it? What are the components of Hybris Billing? Some case studies of Hybris Billing implementations and lessons learned. Uh, what is a typical customer journey on Hybris Billing? Some Hybris Billing deployment options, there are quite a few of them. And then we'll have question and answers at the end. So what is customer lifetime value? So every customer has an interaction with a company, and we call it as a revenue event. A revenue event could be, buying a product from a customer, buying a service from a customer, buying additional products, making a call to the customer care, even returning a product, or just asking for information. So some are positive contributions, some are positive events, and some are negative events. So the net contribution, the sum of net contributions over a lifetime of the customer. So a customer could be a customer for a company for 15 years. So what is the net present value of all the contributions which are going to happen, plus and minus, over the next 15 years is called customer lifetime value. Now, there's another term which is probably used as well, is wallet share. Customer wallet share is basically what is the current actual value or actual business which the customer is generating upon divided by what is the total potential value. So the idea here is that you need to have segmentation or targets for customers who will have a high customer lifetime value and a low wallet share. So basically, you can sell additional offerings or for products and services and bundles, and basically increase revenue from these customers. So you would have heard of IoT, and if you look at IoT, you have connected devices, And with all these connected devices, there's large volumes of data being generated, usage data being generated, and that usage data can be used for generating more targeted offers, or also used for revenue opportunities as well. So the goal here is that you increase revenue using subscription products or bundled products, and have recurring revenue for these high value customer lifetime customer, high value customer lifecycle customers, as well as low wallet share customers. So there could be examples like a printer company gives you doesn't sell you a product and doesn't sell you consumables. They sell you a recurring subscription. So basically, you have the printers installed, you have the company supplying you with all the consumables and also provide the support, but they charge you per copy printed, and a company could have 100 printers and each having specific serial numbers. So tracking all that large volume of usage data and then invoicing them on a subscription basis. So this is where Hybris Billing comes in and can help you with very large volume of billing using usage data. Moving on to the next slide, what are the challenges typically you feel companies face? And Hybris Billing can be used across multiple industries, and some industries where it is pretty useful and have been implemented is high-tech medical devices, media, telecom, education, even communication, software, etc. So some of the challenges which companies face is, you have the usage data. How do you capture the usage data with such a large volume of usage data being there? And then how do you convert that usage data into billing? A file-based system is obviously error-prone with such large volumes, and it's sometimes not feasible to invoice the customer. And then even if you invoice them, the invoice needs to be in a readable format or in a proper format where customers can understand it. So that is one that's a key challenge here. Again, if you have bad invoicing and the customer is not even easily able to perform even self-service, it results in poor customer experience, which obviously will result in unhappy customers and customer churn being higher. Then you also have situations where you can bundle products and you sell it in the example which I described earlier. You can sell and let's take an example of a TV company. They can give you let's say a DVR cable box and some free equipment. They may charge you an activation fee, and they may have they obviously provide you with television channels as well. Now with so selling this bundled product, quoting this bundled product, invoicing this the services, as well as then you also have revenue recognition issues where you have these new government regulations of IFRS 15 and ASC 606, where you have to recognize revenue based on for services based on time, and then for physical products is based on when the service is delivered or when the product is delivered, etc. Then you also could have partners who could be who could be part of this entire delivery or fulfillment process, and they get a share of the revenue. Now, how do you handle? You can have a contract with the partner, you have a contract with the customer, so you basically have to provide a share of the revenue to the partner, and that's also a challenge for which most customers face. So how do you overcome the challenges? So SAP, there are multiple products and components which SAP provides for this Hybris billing solution. So starting from how do you track usage data? Such large volume of usage data. So that usage data volume is tracked using a product called SAP Mediation, which is really a partner product from SAP made by Digital Route. Again, you don't have to use the solution from SAP. You can use a third-party solution that is also supported. Once you get this large volume of data, how do you make sure that the pricing is calculated correctly, the usages are calculated correctly? Again, that is done by a system called convergent charging, which is what takes care of all the pricing and the rules for the pricing engine. Now, the next step is you can have, how do you invoice the customer? Well, this is where the solution called convergent charging, which is really part of ECC, convergent invoicing, I'm sorry, which is really a part of ECC, helps you, invoice the customer in a nice format where you can have summary invoices and detailed invoicing as well. And then you also have a solution for financial management. You have a solution in SAP ECC called FICA. It is really contract accounting, and it keeps a track of revenue for each account or each customer, basically. In addition, there is a solution called SSB, which is solution sales bundling, and this was basically released for customers who don't want to use FICA and they want to use regular FIAR. Another thing which is part of the solution is Hybris Commerce, wherein customers can go online, place an order for the physical product, and then also buy subscription as well. The last thing which I would want to talk about is the reporting tool called Operational Process Intelligence. And this tool basically takes data from different systems and then allows you to have KPIs and then make sure if any KPI is not being met, what is the corrective action which can be taken. So basically, it's for reporting and then taking corrective action. Benefits, again, if you have a Hybris commerce solution wherein customers can log in and also place an order or look at the status of the subscription or look at an invoice, and even when they call the call center for any issue, they should be able to get a consistent experience across all channels, obviously, which results in happy customers, and happy customers means lower churn and increased revenue per customer, and that's the whole goal of this Hybris billing solution. Hybris billing solution also enables you in your digital transformation journey, and pretty much now you would have heard every customer wants to digitize all the assets and digitize all the solutions, and Hybris Commerce also helps in that. In addition, with the amount of volume of data which is being generated and automation which the system allows you, you can improve productivity and improve the quality of the customer interaction as well. There is some benefit in, like, you can have customers paying in using a credit card. They can do full payment upfront. They can do a part payment, or they can do payment later on, or there could be a payment plan that would also help. It can also be achieved using the Hybris billing solutions. So some customers have issues, like have an example of some customers where you could use this solution is like you have a mine where a company's mining machines have been provided. Now those mining machines basically take out earth from the mine. So and you could have 50 machines, and each of those machines are taking out earth. So the way the customer's invoice is cost per ton of earth taken out. So you have to keep a track of all the usage of all the machines pretty much every day, and then invoice a customer in a customer-friendly fashion. So that's another that's an example of where the solution can be used. That's probably the simplest example, but you have other examples of telecom industry where you have data, you have cell phone, you have text, all of that to be tracked, when it took place, who the call was made to, how much was the time it took, or the text data it took, etc. That has to be tracked, and there you'll probably need a more complex solution, which we will describe a little later on, the different landscape options which are there. That is all I had from my customer lifetime value perspective, and now I'd like to hand over to Jed, who can take you to the Hybris Billing details, technical solutions. Jed?
Thank you. Yeah, as a brief introduction of myself, so my name is Jed Durso. I'm a senior SAP Hybris Billing / BRIM, whatever you want to call it today, consultant. I own and run a boutique consulting firm that specifically works in the billing space, and I have been working with pieces and portions of Hybris Billing since 2004. So a lot of experience on client sites and a lot of experience watching them use Hybris Billing / BRIM to increase the customer lifetime value with their customers. And a couple of slides to discuss, but what I wanted to do is just get everybody on the same page. I'm not sure the familiarity of people who know what the piece parts are of BRIM / Hybris Billing. So I want to give you a quick idea for what they are, and really want to give you an impression of how different they are from what you're accustomed to seeing and hearing when you talk about SAP ERP or SAP S/4HANA. So I'm going to start with just describing the 4 primary subsystems. The first being one called convergent charging. That once we call that CC for convergent charging. The next one is called subscription order management, or SOM. So you'll hear me talk about SOM. It also used to be called CRM, or customer relationship management. There's also then another subsystem called convergent mediation. And Ashish mentioned digital route. So convergent mediation is what SAP calls digital route mediation zone. They have an OEM arrangement with digital route to sell it under their own paper. And the last one is convergent invoicing, so CI. So CC, SOM, CM, and CI. So let's just start with some basics. So the number one thing that we talk about when we're thinking about BRIM is the ability to price data according to your customer-focused subscription models. And more specifically, when you're processing some sort of transaction that represents the delivery of a service. So as Ashish was talking about, let's talk an example of when you are printers, for example. There's a large user of BRIM that places printers at large business sites. They don't, the business does not purchase the printer, they just purchase the usage of that printer. And so whenever anyone prints something out, or whenever anyone makes a copy, or whenever anyone sends a fax over that machine, a record of that is stored by the printer and then sent to a back office system to be processed to determine what the charge would be for that customer. And more specifically, for that specific customer. Because when we talk about business-to-business deals, right, as well as small business-to-business deals, and almost to the business to consumer, we're getting to the point where each and every deal is individual. Okay, so there's what we call, so when we talk about the customer-focused pricing and subscription models, right there we start talking about customer lifetime value, right? So from the start of the relationship, you start with negotiating with the customer based upon standard prices. And again, that's the very beginning. You attract a customer through some sort of opportunity, right? You start negotiating with them. You come to agreement on price, right, with the different models that you possibly have. And then you have to be able to, then you'll send them a bill based upon their actual usage. And so where that calculation occurs, right, is in convergent charging. So it's how those transactions are priced against the customer-focused pricing and subscription models. SOM, subscription order management, is just like I said, it's where we enter our customers and contracts against those configured pricing and subscription models. So if you think about it then, if each and every deal is different, well, first you need the convergent charging to be very flexible and configurable to handle what the contract states. You also then need a very flexible front end to be able to capture the information that you have for each and every deal. Okay, there's an out-of-the-box integration then between subscription order management and convergent charging, so that those customers and contracts get pushed over, so that when transactions come in from convergent mediation, which does the gathering of those transactions. So in my example of having a printer available on a customer site, well, if you think about it, let's say it's a very, very large customer and they have 10 office buildings throughout the country. Well, those printers may not be the same exact make and model. So how they represent when someone sends a fax, or how they represent when someone prints something out, or how they represent when someone makes a copy, that transaction coming off of that piece of equipment may be different. And you need a way to mediate between those service delivery platforms and the pricing engine, convergent charging. And again, so I'm just giving an example of that. So again, I'll go through some other examples in my subsequent slides, but it's the focus of convergent mediation is to be able to be flexible enough to take any sort of input data, to be able to normalize it and send it to convergent charging, so that you can apply the pricing agreements that were entered in subscription order management. And just as important is the flexibility of invoicing. Convergent invoicing consolidates all the information from multiple sources onto a single clear format, which then you can use other systems to create the digital documents and send to downstream for your customer financials. Now, when we talk about the technology they're all built on, they're all different because, like I said, convergent mediation is owned by Digital Route. Convergent charging was born through an acquisition of another company. Subscription order management was built by SAP out of the box, but it's a GUI. And then convergent invoicing is very similar. So when we talk about the overall architecture, if we start in the lower right-hand side, see where CM is. So convergent mediation then is gathering up the transactions from all of the different platforms that deliver the service, that produce some sort of electronic transaction. Those get sent to convergent charging to determine the pricing based upon the products and pricing. They're then loaded over into convergent invoicing via the APIs, into convergent invoicing for the billing and invoicing. Now again, where did the information come from? It came from SAP CRM/SOM in the upper left-hand side. Right, so customer and contract data gets sent via the middleware to that internal API inside SAP ECC S/4HANA that then gets shared over to CC in order to have the customer contracts there. Okay, so then the actual invoicing goes on an S/4HANA/ECC like ECC like GUI. Now again, you don't have to have any portions of these in particular, and Ashish will go through that afterwards. But just to let you know, right, a non-SAP system can send customers and contracts to the systems. An external product catalog can send data through to convergent charging, etc. And so there are plenty of integration technologies that are there for all of these systems to work together. Now, and speaking of that, when you do use an out-of-the-box integration between SOM, CC, CM, and CI, those out-of-the-box integrations all just work automatically. So you have to do some configuration to tell the systems where they are, but they all work. So let's talk a little bit about a few actual customer case studies. I have had the pleasure of being on many projects. Just wanted to highlight 3 here and talk about how they're using the systems. And so the first one is a IT services company. They have about 6,000 private clients all over the world. We're using it there to handle a line of business that does not only does hosting services. It's about a $2.2 billion line of business per year. That's what their scope is, and what we're using is we're using convergent mediation, convergent charging, and customer relationship management, which is the version of SOM before SOM existed. We're integrated with SAP ERP, not S/4HANA, with ERP. We are integrated with SD, this is the sales service and delivery platform, and resource-related billing, the RRB. Of course, this was when we did the implementation, it was pre-convergent invoicing integration, also to FICO, as well as we received data from a service delivery platform. Now, like I was discussing, one of the good things about it is completely configurable. And again, these are large, huge, multi-million dollar per month customers. So they're large B2B customers, are all tier 1. And what this solutions leader provides is software and computing resources to their customers. So as an example, right, if you think about like, I don't know, an insurance company, right? Insurance companies want to sell insurance. They don't want to be in the business of owning mainframes and the actual software that's used to track who owns their policies. So instead, they use this client of mine to sell them or rent to them on OpEx, not CapEx, rent to them not only the hardware but also the software. And so then we send them an invoice on a monthly basis to say this is the cost of not only renting the hardware, using my client's hardware, but also using my client's software. So it's very dynamic from one month to the next. So like I said, insurance as the example, if you think about it, then maybe they price based upon the number of, I don't know, whole life policies versus term policies. Auto insurance, how many corporate versus non-corporate, etc. So again, we think about what I was discussing is that each deal can be very different, so that you need the flexibility to automate these large throughput. Else, what you end up with is that on that last bullet, what we migrated from, they had a huge number of billing clerks doing menial Excel-based tasks every month because, quote, you can't automate this. And again, what we were able to prove here was that we were able to completely automate it and then feed the data back to the main executives to see where the customers are and how the customers are doing, so that they were able to go back and upsell or right sell to them, thereby increasing the customer lifetime value of that deal. We saw some really good big KPI improvements, 100% manual processes down to almost none for most customers, a 60% increase, right, in terms of correctness. Because again, when you have people working in Excel doing things manually, things go out wrong. And that's what we had. The last bullet there talks about the fact that we had a lot of invoice rejection prior to the implementation of BRIM, right? Because again, bills would go to the customers look at them and say, no, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. They would run their own reports on their systems to determine that things were incorrectly processed, and then my customer would have to go back and reissue the invoice based upon recalculations in Excel. And what that actually caused was problems with their SEC filings. So again, when we think about customer lifetime value, and we think about automated improvements that you can make when you go to an automation system, an automatic system, not only are you improving your billing and your customer lifetime value, but you're also improving the quality of your financial books. And so they would have to restate revenue and go back to the street or take accounting changes in the next period because of the fact that people were doing things incorrectly by hand. The next case study then is another B2B company. They supply cloud-based software for travel and expense management, right? So they're using BRIM. It's a $1-2 billion line of business, mostly for B2B. Again, they process about 350,000 high-value transactions per month to represent people submitting booking travel or submitting expense reports on their application. We are using convergent mediation, convergent charging, subscription order management, and convergent invoicing, and it's all integrated with S/4HANA, FICA, MDG, FI, RAR, as well as SAP Biller Direct. So again, this is a really big SAP implementation. And as I stated earlier, you don't need to be completely integrated with SAP. You don't need to be an SAP customer to benefit from BRIM. So you can integrate with other systems. Now, what are we talking about here? Very similar to the previous. Lots of individually negotiated contracts, a little bit less than the previous one because there are many, many more customers, and so they have some standard metrics that they use, but those metrics can get turned each way, up or down, based upon one client to the next. They also have a lot of significant periodicities where you say, okay, I'm going to pre-purchase N number of expense reports for 6 months, but I'm still getting billed on a monthly basis. So some complexity there as well. There's a very good complex integration with S4 here at this client. A lot of use of standard functionality in SAP, so the people who are familiar with SAP know what master data governance is, they know what a financial FICA is, and SOM. The convergent mediation is processing about 15 different types of services that are being delivered, not just travel and expense reports, but also a lot of additional services that are added on to them. For example, maintaining images of expense reports, providing a service for to locate employees when they're out on the road, etc. We use standard out-of-the-box consumption items and bit processing. So again, if anyone here on the phone is familiar with convergent invoicing, we're using really straight up out-of-the-box convergent invoicing processes rather than some magic that people can do with convergent mediation. And straight up out-of-the-box FI and RAR. We're expecting that DevOps is going to have some very, very big improvements because, again, sticking with out of the box, out of the box, out of the box, that means there's significantly less things to go wrong with custom code. And so that means that when there are issues with the software, it's only going to be data, and it's never going to be software, because we know that you're using out of the box software. So again, a really good reference implementation of out of the box that handles all of the B2B agreements that are all individually tweaked, and using the configuration aspect of the entire BRIM application, we're able to completely automate their entire process from receiving the contracts through to receiving the transactions to represent those travel and expense, etc., services, to getting a bill out the door. So we go from a lot of manual processes all the way through to straight up out of the box, running straight through to get bills. So you sign customers up and they get billed. The last one I want to talk about is an education content provider. And again, they went from being a publishing company, right, where they would publish books, to being an education content provider. So you could see this was a digital transformation of the entire company, and therefore they brought BRIM in to handle that, to change from the typical pick, pack, and ship. Because again, when you place an order for books, it's a lot different than when you sign up to get access to online content based upon those number of books that you've sold. So it's a combination of saying, I have a physical good that gets delivered, as well as a digital delivery of that same good. And so that digital transformation needed a way to be able to not only integrate to be able to deliver those things, but also count the number of times people access the usage, the content based and ensure that they don't go over the number of physical goods that they purchased. What we used here is the CC import export connector. We did not use convergent mediation there. It was a little bit overkill if we did, so we decided to use a more smaller tool to do import export. So again, that's an example of using portions of BRIM. You don't need to use all of them. We use convergent charging, use CRM and convergent invoicing. Very good big integration with Salesforce.com because they track their opportunities and contracts. So it's opportunity to contract in Salesforce. Then once they go to contract, it gets brought over to CRM. So again, you could see the customer lifetime value happening using this out-of-the-box integration with Salesforce. There's integration with the service delivery platform to determine how many people were actually using it, as well as FICA and FI. As I stated before, there's the digital content bundled with the physical content. They do also have renewals every year, but the renewal ends based upon the expected lifetime of that physical content. So again, a really big integration with physical to digital. Used a lot of out-of-the-box integrations with Hybris Billing and BRIM, and we saw really big improvements here. So lots of productivity improvements because they went from when they started delivering the digital content, they're really unable to track and determine whether or not people were actually using it and using it according to what their agreements were. So we saw some really good improvements there versus using Excel and people doing it. And then we really good integration with the shipping to ensure that only when the physical goods were delivered were they given access to the digital content. So that integration worked really well. So when we talk then about the customer journey in BRIM Hybris Billing, if we think about that customer journey on the red arrow, through those blue arrow shows the processes that you go through from a business perspective, and then the systems that are used to represent those processes, right? I hope I gave you a few examples of that during when I was talking about the actual with the actual customers and some of those customers. But if you could see, then subscription management sort of starts the whole thing, right? And again, capturing new provider contracts that can be where there's a lot of flexibility to be able to handle the individual needs that you have, especially in the B2B space. Again, I've talked a lot about B2B, but just as easily in Hybris Billing, BRIM can handle huge amounts of data for huge amounts of customers. The largest mobile telephony company in the world in India uses Hybris Billing and handles billions and billions of transactions per hour to be able to price those transactions primarily in a prepaid mode. You may or may not be familiar, but Apple uses Hybris Billing BRIM for the App Store. So if you think about then the App Store charging you 99 cents when you downloaded that app, or $1.99, or you pay a monthly $4.99, that's all Hybris Billing doing all of the work for Apple. And so also remember how many billions and billions of dollars they make per year in that line of business for how many millions and millions of subscribers. So again, the volume here is huge if needed. So again, when we think about then, if you think about a B2B space for search, so in that customer journey, you search and call for a service, you subscribe it, we capture that subscription in subscription management, in that SOM. You start receiving the services, and we have to start tracking those services in convergent mediation. the customer continues to use it, I mean, right? We have to charge for those services. Then we have to invoice for those services, right? So we use convergent invoicing for that. Then, of course, there's bill payment and AR and collections. That's all inside the financial management in S/4HANA or ECC. And then you're going to use some sort of customer usage analytics. And again, there's out-of-the-box integrations. It's easy to integrate convergent invoicing with, for example, business objects or any other type of analytics type of software to see, which then feeds you right into price modeling and figuring out ways to upsell or right sell to your customers. And when I say right sell, right, I've had many times where they've gone back to say, okay, let's apply different models to determine what would be best for the customer. Because again, especially in the B2B space, you do want to be able to circle back to customers and say, listen, those are your initial contract. It's not working out. You're not spending as much as we thought you would, right? And we want to get you into the right sized deal. So again, it's not just sign the customer for a 5-year agreement and let it ride. It's go back, check, and right size. And then when you do that, then you got to right back into subscription management, and you have to make sure that when customers do make changes, they either add on services, or they renew, or they change their contracts, and that's part and parcel of the entire BRIM application, is to not only handle the creation, but also the updates to those contracts as needed. Hopefully I've given some people some insight, and I'm passing it back here to Ashish to talk about the different ways that you can use BRIM.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with the simplest way, and then as we go along, you'll see more complications and different scenarios and different industries could use it differently. The simplest way is that, as you might have realized, convergent invoicing resides in SAP ECC or S/4HANA. You have master data, customer, products, and pricing, and contracts existing in SAP ECC as well. You have FICA, which is contract accounting. You also have optional components like RAR, is revenue accounting, that also can be implemented. You have FSCM, which is financial supply chain, which is basically collections, disputes, resolutions, credits, etc. And then there is FSB, which is flexible solutions billing. It is another tool for easier invoice formatting, etc. So an example where this could be used, and which has been used earlier in one of my past clients, is a forklift manufacturer sending out a fleet of forklifts to a customer, and they were being charged. So they could be charged based either on a flat rate, saying you're going to be charged based on a flat amount every month, which was easier. But then there were other scenarios where they had customers where they were being charged for the usage of the forklift. So you can imagine a forklift at a construction site, a large construction site, there could be hundreds, and how much each forklift is being used in a 24-hour period is being tracked, and all that daily data for each forklift is then fed into SAP convergent invoicing. Obviously, the pricing and the rules have to be applied before it can be fed into convergent invoicing. And then you can generate an invoice, a detailed and a summary invoice, and handle all the financials, etc. in SAP ECC or S/4HANA. This is the simplest model where you can leverage SAP convergent invoicing. So the second option here is you can use convergent charging as well. So in convergent charging, as Jed already pointed out, you can do pricing, and you can do validation, what are the business rules of pricing, and basically determine who is going to be billed and how much. Again, usage data files can be sent from third-party systems. You could do an Excel file upload as well. And there's something called a bulk loader, which is used for loading data here. And again, the data flows from convergent charging as chargeable items. Inbound data is chargeable items, outbound is charged items, and then it flows to convergent items, convergent invoicing, where billable items, and there is a billed item, and then it's get invoiced there. You also can notice that there is something called SAP Operational Process Intelligence. This is a HANA-based tool, which also integrates with SAP S/4HANA or ECC and convergent charging and invoicing, which you can track what is the analytics or performance of the solution and how you can take corrective action if there are any issues in the solution. Moving on to the next one, it includes conversion mediation as well. It's pretty similar to the previous one, excluding that the usage data is being fed from an SAP mediation system, or it could be SAP or non-SAP mediation system. But this is how the data is fed. The usage data is fed to conversion charging and also to OPI for analytical reporting perspective as well. And again, as you notice, these things get challenging. This probably model is can be used. This model is being used without CRM. So you could potentially use a third-party CRM as well and feed in the data for contracts into ECC and conversion charging for all the contract accounting, etc. Which is a pretty common scenario where there are customers who have Salesforce or Microsoft CRM for contracts and or a third-party system, and that data needs to be fed, and they don't want to implement SAP CRM as an example. In this solution, you have SAP CRM, which takes care of contracts and orders. So this is a very common scenario for a telecom company where you can have a order captured in SAP CRM, which is basically could be for a bundle product, which could be for a cell phone, could be a data plan, could be a text plan, could be voice. And the order basically creates a contract for all the subscription items like the monthly billing or one-time activation fees or one-time charges. And then the data is replicated to SAP ECC and to convergent charging as well. Convergent charging gets the contract data and master data, and data from convergent charging, as I said earlier, gets fed to SAP ECC. And again, the same thing, OPI is going to be used for reporting perspective as well. Now you could have a complete digital solution here where you can have the Hybris Commerce is also included, wherein you can order the products online and perform self-service of the subscriptions or the contracts, and also view the invoices online as well. So here the physical product is being ordered through an order, and the contract or a subscription is being used for subscription services, and both of them can be processed and fulfilled. The last option is the Revenue Cloud option, wherein you have the similar components. It is still being developed by SAP, so it is not as powerful as the Hybris Billing solution. I mean, nowhere close yet. But you have mediation solution wherein you have the usage data, and all the systems are on the cloud. So mediation, S/4HANA, SAP Hybris, subscription billing are on the cloud, and you use SAP Cloud Platform integration for integrating all the solutions. So the mediation feeds usage data to subscription billing, where you can do the rating, which is basically pricing and charging. And from subscription billing, you can send the data to S/4HANA for conversion invoicing and financial accounting. Again, same like the previous scenario. You can use Hybris Commerce for ordering physical products and subscriptions. Again, that sends the data back to S/4HANA through SAP Cloud Platform, and also sends it to subscription billing through the SAP Cloud Platform integration. And these are the options for deployment options for Hybris Billing. And now we can go to the questions. Ajay, you can take over now.
Thank you, Ashish. We are now going to begin answering the questions. So the first question we have is, what complexities have you faced while implementing SAP Hybris Billing?
Yeah, I'll take that, Ashish. I mean, the complexities are really all about what's how the customer wants to do their implementation. So again, the good thing about Hybris Billing / BRIM is that it can handle any sort of business requirement when it comes to representing the subscribed to services. The complexities then are really around the integration points and validating and verifying that the integration points are done well and correctly. So getting a good, clear picture for what it is that you want to do and how you want to do it is the number one thing, right? So again, what is it you want to do? How do you want to bill? How do you want to represent your contracts in what systems, right? So getting clear data going between the systems. Once that's done, we know factually that all of BRIM can handle all the entire how you sell. So it's just a matter of then getting the pipes working between the systems.
Okay. The next question that we have is, can you please explain mediation in more details with an example?
Okay, I think I gave one example during my discussion. So the word mediation specifically comes out of the telecommunication world, and when we think about a large telecommunication provider, right? Let's say a telecom that uses let's say AT&T bridges, right? The actual network elements that deliver the phone calls, and they're using those network elements that AT&T produced. What was it called? Telcordia or Telcom or something like that. Right. So they have one brand of bridges, of actual physical network elements that deliver the phone calls. Well, let's say they acquire someone else, and they have a different company's brand of service delivery, telephone call delivery platform. Okay, so there's two different technologies that are delivering the same exact services that need to get put onto a single bill. So when we think about it, then we think about, okay, well, then we need something that can mediate between those network elements and the billing system to set up a common record format so that they can be processed and put onto a single bill. Never mind, if you think about it, telephone companies, Verizon, etc., they provide voice, video, and data. And so there are network elements that are producing that are delivering all of those services. They're all delivered via different technologies, and therefore they all need to get somehow put into the same format so that they can be processed appropriately and all put on the same bill so that you can price according to the bundles that are sold. So mediation is the word mediation, you can think about it, is really how you mediate between the service delivery platforms and the back office OSS systems.
Okay. So next question that we have is, what is SAP's future direction of putting SAP Hybris Billing on cloud?
Yeah, I can take that. So as I said, I showed you earlier, the revenue cloud solution is what SAP is going towards. It is nowhere close to what SAP Hybris Billing solution offers. I think probably in a year or a couple of years, the solution probably may go to cloud. But again, the volume of data is so large that I'm not sure whether even the cloud solution would be able to handle it, but maybe lower volumes or mid-level volumes probably can be handled.
Okay. I think we are close to end of today's webinar. Before that, maybe we can take one or two more questions. So we have one more question, that is, which version of SAP ECC needed for SAP Hybris Billing?
So of course, the latest and greatest is always the best. There's use of Hybris Billing supports both ECC as well as S/4HANA. So again, most people who are starting to use ERP or either who are using SAP are either staying on ERP or they're in process of moving to S/4HANA. So just rest assured, if you're on S4 or if you're on ERP, the versions are very backward compatible with it. So again, once you got into convergent invoicing back in 2013, you're pretty much good, as well as with CRM. So again, as long as you're up to date with your ERP or your S4, you're in good shape. But if you've done anything prior to 2000, if you haven't upgraded, since 2012, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, then it would take a little bit more work for someone like myself as an integrator to get working together.
I think SAP EHP 7 probably has most of the functionality which BRIM 5.0 needs, I think. Sorry, convergent charging 5.0 needs. Before that, there would still be functionality, but only if you need it. You need to upgrade. Otherwise, you probably don't.
Okay. I think this question is for Jed. What is the maximum volume you have seen in usage data and subscription data?
Like I hinted at before, the largest cell phone provider in the world uses BRIM Hybris Billing. They process billions of transactions per hour. So you can think about it. Then you need to have, how many transactions then need to be processed per second. I could provide a lot more information, however, that is, because there is some publicly discussed volumes with that specific customer. But again, you could also just think about Apple and how many people are actually using the App Store at any given time. By the way, eBay is also a customer. So if you could think about how big eBay is, right, and how many customers are using that. So again, when we talk about volumes, the good thing about that convergent charging and convergent mediation is that they're all client-server applications, but they're also multi-server applications. So they've pulled feature functionality so that they can split that features across multiple servers. So you can physically put the same computing algorithms on many servers. And when I say many, you could do thousands if you need to. So again, you could use lots of little blades. You don't need to use one huge monstrous system. They also actively use a lot of memory allocation. So when we think about those contracts that are represented by convergent charging, those are all loaded into machine memory. Meaning when I'm processing transactions in convergent charging, it doesn't need to go to the database to look for information in order to determine how to price a particular transaction. It's all using in-memory computing.
Okay, so I think now we are at the end of today's webinar. Thank you, Ashish and Jed, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. You will receive a follow-up email with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. You can respond back to us with any question that you have to that email. On behalf of Accrete and our presenters, thank you for joining us today, and have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.